Um, we are on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. We're learning as a chus for Shlomo Filan Chaya Basera. Maybe what we'll do is we'll start a few minutes earlier so that you can make it for more of Friday and Wednesday.
Again, if
But
everyone else,
anyway, I would
if
like to
everyone,
start a little earlier in any case.
I was thinking about that, but then it's a question of everyone else being able to start earlier. Like I've seen in these blocks, yeah, earlier
Yeah,
would be better for us.
right. I mean, we just need more time anyway. So we're on the last narrow line on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Amar Avasi. Ubahayra halach acharoi v'yeshivei Eretz Yisrael. We know the din of that you bring a par helam davish al tzibur when Roiv of Klal Yisrael did an avera at the instruction at the Hayra of Bezdin on Gimel Amud Aleph, right, and the last wide line Amar Avasi. So the Hayra has to be Roiv of the people living in Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't go by the entire. Doesn't include Chutz La'aretz. It doesn't include the people in Bavel or now the people in America. As far as determining whether most of Klal Yisrael follow the Bezdin, you look at only the people living in Eretz Yisrael. Shenemar, we learn out from a pasuk. Vayash Shlomo ve'esahi es hachag. Shlomo made a celebration, a Yom Tif. B'chol Yisrael imoi kahal gadol, and it was the entire Klal Yisrael was with him, a great kahal, milavai chamas ad nachal Mitzrayim, from one border of Eretz Yisrael, which is Chamas, until the other border, which is by Mitzrayim. Lifnei Hashem Alekeinu, they made the Yom Tov in front of Hashem, Shivas Yom, Arba Asa Yom, for 7 days plus 7 days, which is 14 days. So let's look at this pasuk. Michli Ksiv V'chol Yisrael Imai, Kahal Gadol. It says the whole congregation of the Yidden, Yisrael, was with him. And then it says, Milav Chamas ad Nacham Mitzrayim Lamali. What does it have to tell you from one border to the next border? It already said all of Klal Yisrael. Shramina Hani Hu Dekri Kal, Avahanach La Yekri Kal. The purpose of the pasuk is to tell you only those in Eretz Yisrael are considered part of the Kahal of Klal Yisrael, but those outside are not. So that will also have an impact. The Gabi is din that you have to have Roiv of Klal Yisrael being over on an Avera at the instruction of the Bezdin. That it's only going to be those Roiv of the Kahal in Eretz Yisrael. Pshita, Merubim v'nismatu, it's pashut that if you have a case, again, we're going on this din that you have to have Roiv Klal Yisrael be over an Avera at the, because of a mistake of Bezdin, that if it was Roiv of Klal Yisrael that did it, and then, there was a big plague, and one of the, let's say, a whole city that all followed the Bezdin, they all died out. So, you have 1,000,000 Yidden, and there were 550,000 or 510,000 that did it, and 490 didn't. And then 100,000 Yidden who had done the Avera all died. So the question is, are they going to bring the Parhalam Davish Shel Tzibur if they died before the Parhalam Davish Shel Tzibur could have been brought? Let's see Rashi. Shita Meru Mismat. Going Shaharu Bezdin, but also Roiv Kahal Al Piyim. Bezdin made the psak, and most of Klal Yisrael did as they instructed. And Schai will heavy par, and they're mechayiv to bring a par. V'lo speak the heavy par matu, but they didn't bring the param davar until it became less than the roiv. Shemesu mitzasan, because some of them died. So the Gemara says this is pashat hainu pluktu der shimir rabbanon, that this is going to follow the machlekes of shimir rabbanon. That's a machlekes and daf yud in the Mishnah. The Mishnah there says chatu achaloi nismanu, v'achkach nismanu. If a regular yid did a chet, he ate chalev b'shaygig, and then he was appointed to become Kohen Gadol, or was appointed to become the king. A king or a Kohen Gadol who do a chet bring a different carbon. A king brings a seir nasi, he brings a seir as opposed to a kisva, a seira, and a a Kohen Gadol brings a par helam davar, Kohen Mashiach. So he brings that carbon. But this person did the Avera while he was a regular person, and then he became appointed after he did the Avera, before he could bring his carbon chatas. So we say the Tanakhama says Harei Lukejoitis. They're treated like a regular person. They bring the regular chatas, even though they were before they brought the carbon, they were appointed. Rishon Im Noidelhem Achaloi Nispanu Chayavim. Shimon says it depends. If they did the Avera, but they did it b'shaygig, and then they found out that they had done the Avera b'shaygig before they became appointed, then they're mechayiv to bring the carbon. Which would be like the Tanakama, or Mishnah. But if they did the Avera, and they hadn't yet brought the carbon, and then they found out they did the Avera, so now they're mechayiv to bring the chatas, and then they found out, then they're going to be potter, because at the time, the other way around. If they did the Avera, and then they were appointed to be Kohen Gadol, and then they found out that they had previously done the Avera, then they're potter, because their finding out about the Avera was while they were already a Kohen Gadol or a Nas.
With potter, with the gods.
They don't have to bring a carbon chatas, or, well, we'll see. You're asking about should they bring like as a Kohen Gadol. As it's going to become evident later in the Gemara, they're potter from everything. They don't bring either as a Yachid or as a Kohen Gadol. We'll see what the Gemara makes of that. So Zak the Gemara. So that's going to be the same machlekes. According to the Rabbanan, who say that you're chayiv as a kohen, even though he was nismana to be a kohen, or nismana to become a nasi. So they would say over here, if it was merubin and then it was nismatu, they should still bring the par kohen, the par helam davar shel tzibur, because at the time that the avera was done, they were the bezdin, at the time that the bezdin made the hayra and the kahal did the avera, they were a roiv tzibur, and therefore that requires a par helam davar shel tzibur. It doesn't make a difference that the circumstances changed before the carbon was born. But according to Rav Shimon says if they found out before they were nismana that they're going to be potter, so over here also you would be potter. But the Gemara questions, mu'atam v'nisrabu. What if it's the other way around? If after the avera was done, after the bezdin made their hayra, they said that chaylev is mutter, and only a muyat of Klal Yisrael did the Avera, and then later on, a bunch of the people who had not done the Avera died. So the question is, at this point, do we say now it became a roiv, and therefore they're mechayiv to bring the param davar shel tzibur? Mi pligi Rav Shimon Rabbanan. Do Rav Shimon and Rabbanan argue about that case as well? Would be the other way around? Do we say it goes based on the original stance? So since at the beginning was a miyat, so according to the Rabbanan over here, you'd be potter, and we flip it around. Then according to Rav Shimon, he says it goes by basa yediyah, so it would be chayiv. Me please give Shimon Rabbanan. So Rav Shimon the azal basa yediyah mechayiv. According to the Rav Shimon, that you go basa the yediyah. So now, when they find out that the bezdin made a mistake, that there was already a roiv who had done it, because some of the people who hadn't done it died out. The one who say it goes about when they did the time they did the chet, it was only a miyat. Oiloi. Ma. In fact, the Marva Tizbra, one says, no, this is not a shayla. Even the Shamal Rav Shimon the Azal af basi yediyah, Rav Shimon says you go also basi yediyah. That means he holds in order to be mechayev someone for over there he's talking about a nasi or a kohen gadol. In order for them to be mechayev as a yachid, they have to have not just that they did the avera as a yachid, but they also have to have become aware of it, the avera as a yachid. That means they impose the chiyuv. Shimon says he restricts when you could impose the chiyuv. He says he has a higher standard to impose the chiyuv. But it's not that he says you don't need. It doesn't make a difference when the chiyuv what the situation was at the time that the chiyuv that the person did the chayv. And he says you need two things. Then you're going to be chayv. Yediyah beloy chayt mishamelei. But if there's a yediyah without the chayt, he wouldn't say about that then you're going to be mechoyev as a if he didn't know if he wasn't a kohen gadol at the time that he did the aver, and then he became kohen gadol before yediyah, he wouldn't say about that either that he's going to be chayiv to bring the power of a kohen gadol. Mishamali the imkain laisi kihashta. If that was the case, and this is coming back to what you had said, if it was true that just yediyah would be enough, Rav Shimon wouldn't say that you potter altogether. He would say instead of bringing as a yachid, he should instead bring as a kohen gadol or as a nasi, but rather he says you potter altogether. So from the fact that he says you potter altogether, you see that he has two factors that he needs in order to be mechuyev as a kohen gadol or as a nasi. Both that the chait was done as a kohen gadol or either way, either as a yachid he did both the chait and he had the yediyah, or that he was a kohen gadol both at the time of the chait and the yediyah. But we don't say that according to Rav Shimon it just depends on yediyah, because we don't say that if he just had the yediyah as a kohen gadol that he's going to have to bring the par kohen Mashiach. Rav Shimon chait yediyah boy. He needs both of them. Different question. Hayru bezdin chaylev mutter, but also miyat hakal. Bezdin said chaylev is mutter, and then a miyat of Klal Yisrael did based on what they said. V'chazru bezdin bohen. V'hayru v'asu v'hayru. Bezdin realized they made a mistake, and then they went ahead and they made the same mistake again. And 1 week they said chaylev is mutter. Then the next week they said, of course, chaylev is aser. Then the following week they said, oh no, you know what? It's mutter. But also miyat acha, and then another miyat followed them the second time. Kivin the shtei yediyas ninu loy mitzdarf. Do we say that since it was two separate times, and even though if you add the two miyutim together, it comes up to a roiv. But even so, we say it was two separate mistakes of the bezdin, so they don't get added together. Oidoma kivin the ID v'ID chaylevu. Since they both made the mistake that they ate chaylev because of the heroic bezdin, mitzdarf. You add it up to two miyutim, and then it adds up to a roiv. If you say in that case it's mitzdaref, miyat b'chelev shal gabe akeva, miyat b'chelev shal gabe daken. The Torah lists all the different types of chelev, and the Bezdin made two mistakes. Even the two mistakes that Bezdin made, one was the gabe the chelev that's on top of the stomach, and the other was the chelev that's on top of the intestines. Which are both the Torah says are so mao. What would be the din? Hasam v'adai kivin to betray kroi kasi mitzdarf. There, it's not both chaylev and chaylev. It's two different types of chaylev, which will be learned from different psukim, different not mitzdarf. Idilma kivin the idea chaylev mitzdarf. Since they're both different forms of chaylev, you can add together the two miyutim to make a right. The imtim tzalaima shem chaylev mitzdarf. If you'll say it's all chaylev, doesn't make a difference that it's different types of chaylev and it's mitzdarf. Miyat b'chelev and miyat b'dam. What if one made a mistake by chelev and one bezdin said the bezdin originally said a mistake in chelev and the miyat followed them, and the miyat made a mistake about dam. Hachavadai the trei yisurin ninu. They're two entirely different yisurim. The kivin dein yisurin shava, and they don't have the same. They don't have the same. So loy mitzdarf. Idilma kivin the karbanan shava mitzdarf. Since their carbon is the same. They both bring a carbon chatas, so it doesn't make a difference which particular carbon chatas is required, since you have you add together all the different miyut. I mean, if it comes into a roiv, then you bring a parhel davish al tzibur. V'imtim salayim ekim the kaban and shav and mitzdarf. Since they both bring the same chatas, it's mitzdarf. Miyut b'chelub miyut ba'avodas kechavim. If a miyut was an avodas kechav, mao. Both they have a different, it's a different isser, and they don't bring a different carbon. A carbon, if the tzibur makes a mistake about avodas kechavim, they bring sirei avodas kechavim. There's a specific, they only can bring a soyer, a male goat. Mashenk in a regular chatzah, you have a choice of a female goat or a female sheep. Aidilma, given the idea of Aidis Karasum, it's that. Maybe you say it doesn't make a difference. Since Avodas Kechavim and Chelev, if someone's over them, amazing, they're Chayiv Karas, it's all one. Par Helam Dava Shal Tzibur, she can starve the meat. Take. What it says, it remains a question. Iboilu, Hayru Bezin.
Chorus?
What?
Is part chorus?
If you do it amazing, I think so. Yeah. You can get Malchus for it also.
Malchus
if there's Asra. But if there's no Asra, you get Karas.
It's a lot, of course.
Yeah. But it's a lot that the Torah says you get Karas. Keeping the trace to Idoma, keeping the Ilu, Tzibur, Achli Hai Chelev, Hai Dam, Shaloi by Rabbish, Chicago Maisama. Yeah. Iboilu. Hayru Bezdin, Shechelev Mutter. Bezdin said that Chelev is Mutter, but also Miyat Akal, and a portion, a minority of the Kahal did it, Umeis. Oise Bezdin. And that Bezdin that had made the determination that Chelev is Mutter all died. Bezdin Acha, another Bezdin was appointed, and they also passed in the Chelev is Mutter, also Miyat Achar. And another, 30% followed the second group. So you have 30% plus 30%. I'll leave it to Mandama Bezdin Maisi Loiti Bailach, a listener. According to Mandama, that says that it's a machlekes of who brings the parhel and davish al tzibur that we're talking about. Is it brought by the tzibur or is it brought by the Bezdin? Who has the responsibility to bring it? So if you say the Bezdin has to bring it, there's no question over here about bringing a parhel and davish al tzibur, because we said the first Bezdin died, so they're not around to bring it. According to Mandam, that says the tzibur brings it. My tzibur hakoi. Do we say, so you have a tzibur, you have the 30% plus the 30% of the two different batei dinim, so it adds up to a majority. So therefore they bring it. Dilma, yediyah dahu bezdin the hayru beina. Or you need that the bezdin that had originally made the determination, they should be here at the time that become aware that it was a mistake, and since they're no longer around, you can't bring a parallel davish al tzibur. So the Gemara take.
There is no concept of sort of an institution like Sanhedrin has to break it.
You're saying like you look at what you're saying. You're saying look at the name. It doesn't make a difference who the individuals are.
There's no institution.
Well, like we said, I guess each bezdin has its own. Like they have every year, they have the 206th Congress, the 207th Congress. Every Congress is looked on as its own identity, right? Amr Rabbi Yonason, Meya sheyashvu l'hayros, ein chayavin asher yoru kulan. If you have 100, even as normal, we're talking about the Sanhedrin, which has 71. But he's saying even if you had like these extra people that were they had there was an option that they could add people. Even if you have 100 people in the Sanhedrin, and one person just did not, he refused to give an answer. They said, what do you hold as Chelev Mutter? Everyone said Chelev is Mutter, and he was stubborn and he didn't say anything. Ein chayav at sheyoyru kulan. You're not going to be mechuyev v'helam davar unless the entire Sanhedrin said it's mutter. Shenema, if they all made the mistakes. Shenema im kol adas Yisrael yisku. Achi yisku kulan. Achi tuzera b'chol adas Yisrael. The Eidah over here, kol adas Yisrael, is referring to the Bezdin, meaning the Bezdin that represents Yisrael. Until they all make a mistake, they affirmatively make the mistake, there's not going to be a din of param davashal tziba. Amr Rav Huna Breder v'Hoshia hachanam mistabra. V'chol ha'Torah kula kaimlan rubei kukula. In the entire class, we always say a roiv is like the whole thing. V'achaksev kol ha'eda, kol ha'adas Yisrael. Ha'el v'kach afilu hein meya. Since the pasuk says kol ha'adas Yisrael, it's not enough to just stick with. It's coming to tell you that just the roiv is not enough. You need kol ha'adas. Even if there are 100, you shouldn't. That means even if there's 100, unless everyone agrees, you're not going to have it in parallel of Shaltzipa. Tnan, practically tomorrow, we learned in our Mishnah, Haru Bezdin. If Bezdin made a psak in error, the other Achamehem Shato, and one of the people knew that they made a mistake, like Talmud Roy Loy Ra, or one of the participants of the Bezdin knew they made a mistake, or a Talmud that was Roy Loy Ra, V'halach v'asal PM, and they went and did the Yachid who knew that they were mistaken, went and did the Aveira, he ate the Chalev, even though he knew they were wrong. Whatever the circumstances, how they both Bezdin did it and he did it. Bezdin made the mistake and he did it. He's going to have to bring a carbon chatas because he knew Bezdin was wrong and he followed their psak anyway. So we're saying only he is chayiv because he shouldn't have followed the Bezdin, he knew better. Ha'achar, but anyone else would be potter because they would bring up, it would be a parhalam davar shel tziba. The Bezdin made a mistake and he mechuyev a parhalam davar shel tziba. We're saying that there's no parhalam davar shel tziba when anyone objects. This person who disagreed with the whole Bezdin, he objected. And nevertheless, the mashmoyis is that if someone else would have done it, they would be chayiv. Why? I'm sorry, they would be potter. Why should they be potter? We don't have over here a din of param davar shel tzibur because there was this one guy who disagreed. We're talking about even this person who objected, who didn't agree with the rest of the Bezdin. He nodded his head along with them. That means he personally disagreed, and he didn't say, I agree with you, but he nodded and he said, okay. He indicated he was okay with what they said. So it wasn't that he was quiet. He indicated that he assented, even though he had said that he disagrees. Even though he himself disagreed. It's a little hard to understand exactly how the circumstances are. We're talking about where he's saying, I don't agree, but he didn't object. But if he didn't object, how do we know? We're saying he's chayiv to bring a carbon chatas. What is making him chayiv to bring? It's only because he disagreed with them and he knew they were wrong. So maybe it means that he just says afterwards, I knew the whole time you were wrong, but I didn't say anything. So Rashi koinche hirchanahu echad mehen oitam beroishe the nira hoydel levein v'nigmar hayra. He caused them to finish the hayra. Tashma. Bring another eye on this question. Hayru Bezdin v'yada echamim sheto. If Bezdin, this is the next Mishnah. If Bezdin made a psak and one of them knew that they made a mistake, and he said, "You're making a mistake." Hare elu p'turim. In that case, then they are potter. They're potter from bringing a carbon param davar shel tzibur because there's one person who's saying it's a mistake. Time of the amalan toyin atem the p'turim. It's only because he said that it's a mistake. Hashasik mishnik chayavin. If he would have been quiet, had he not made an objection, it would be chayiv. So what we had said, Rabbi Yonasan had said that if you have to have every person says it, it's not enough that they're quiet. You have to have everyone agree. But over here it's mashma that if the person only because the person loudly objected. But if he had just been quiet, that would have been enough to make a hayra, that it would be mechuyev param davar. So again, over here, when the Mashmoyis was saying that had they been quiet, they would be mechuyev param davar shel tzibur, means that had they been quiet, he could have indicated with his head, without saying anything, that he agrees, and that would be enough to vindicate that it's treated as a param davar shel tzibur. Most of it Mishashi. Mishashi asks another question. Some korbatin al divrei Reb Shimon Gamliel al divrei Reb Elazar bar Tzadok shayu. I'm ain't geyser gzeira al tzibur and kein roi batzibur yichon lamed. We're not geyser gzeira on the tzibur unless roi the tzibur can stand with it. Means we won't answer, that the bread is going to be aser if to make a tinus, whatever. You can't make a gzeira that people are not going to be able to manage. Let's say, I think the example they give is you can't make a gzeira that because of the churban of the Beis Hamikdash, we say we don't listen to music. You don't say that you can't eat bread, because that's going to be a gzeira that no one could ever eat bread. It's going to be too much for people to deal with. Rav the tzibur won't be able to deal with. Micro, where do you see this from? From the pasuk says, you're cursed with a curse, and the curse that you yourself made, the Rasham's telling the Yidden, the curse that you made against yourself, that you said, if you are going to be Ovid Avodah Zarah, you should be cursed. You lied when you made that curse. You disregarded it, and you were Ovid Avodah Zarah. Hagoy Kulai, the entire guy. Hagoy Kulai. Verubai Kukulai Dam. We're saying that the tzibur, the gzeira of the tzibur over there was, it says Hagoy Kulai, and nevertheless it just has to be Rubai Kukulai, because we say it must have been a gzeira that Rav of Klal Yisrael could not stand. To Yufta, Rav Yonason to Yufta. This is the kashan we see from over here, that when we say, even though it says Kol Adas, it doesn't mean Gans Kol Yisrael, it just means, or the whole Sanhedrin, it means Roiv, or enough, as long as Roiv of the Bezdin agrees to the psak and says so, you don't need every single person to say so, because we see from here that Ruba is Kekulai. Legabe, even when we say Kol Kahal. Yes, they're going to be high for the Param Dover, even though one guy was quiet, or even more than one guy. What does the pasuk mean? That he had learned this from Kol Adas, that it means that everyone has to say. So what does he do with Kol Adas? You have to have a quorum. You have to have everyone there. It doesn't necessarily that they all have to agree, but they all have to be present when the psak is made. Amr Yeshua, Yuchi Yeshua V'Din. 10 people. We had this. Where was this Gemara? We had this a while ago in Sanhedrin, a couple of months ago. 10 people who sit to make a din Torah. Kula tali b'tzaber kulan. There's a chain. There's a stocks around, chains around their necks. That means that all of them are going to be responsible for the psak. This is just a hemshech. We're talking about Bezdin has to make a hayra, and what happens if they make a mistake. We're saying they all are responsible for the psak they make. Talking about pshita, it's pasha. They're all making the psak. Why shouldn't they be responsible? Even if there's a Talmud who knows that they're making a mistake, he should speak up. It's also his responsibility to say something, like we saw in our Mishnah over here, right? If it's a Talmud, Yoshev B'Hira, if he knows differently, he's mechuyev to act based on what he knows, and if he has an objection, he should speak up and inform them of it. We had this in Sanhedrin a lot about that, a whole Gemara about if there was a Talmud who knew a way to vindicate or exonerate a person who is mechuyev misa, he's mechuyev to say so. But if he has a reason to be mechayev someone who Bezdin thought was innocent, he shouldn't say anything. Right? We said it depends on which direction. But in any case, he's certainly mechuyev to let someone off the hook. If he's mechuyev misa, he has to speak up.
Right, so to exonerate, we always are maker. We always
right. So we would listen to. He should speak up. He shouldn't necessarily speak up if he has if everyone agrees that the person shouldn't be killed. He shouldn't speak up with a reason to kill him. Yeah.
Was anybody who was there? Anybody?
Yeah, that's certainly the people in the Bezdin. We're saying even a Talmud. I mean, we don't have Stama guy, right? We had also people, if anyone came up with this.
Anybody came up with
Yeah.
that?
So we had whoever. What's the difference between them? You remember back in
Yeah, I
Sanhedrin, we
remember.
had
It
this
was like
discussion.
very, very loose.
It was very. There was a lot of different small diukim, different distinctions. But in any case, that's the chiddush of what we're saying over here. When he would go to the bezin, he'd bring an extra 10 disciples to sit in front of him. In order that they should take pieces off of the beam, meaning that he has the beam of the heavy weight of the decision on him. By having 10 extra people, that will lighten the load, that they'll take part of the responsibility, that if he's making a mistake, they'll speak up and help him out. When they would bring a judgment to determine whether an animal was a treif or not, they would bring 10 expert butchers from Machsaya, and stand him in front to help him, in order that they can also lighten the load of the responsibility from him. Talk to Mishnah. Hayru Bezdin, Biyadu Shato. Bezdin made a hayra, and they found out that they made a mistake, and they were chayzer from their mistake. Bein sheheviu kaparasan, bein shaloi heviu kaparasan. Whether they had a chance to bring the param davar shel or not. V'halach v'asa al piyan. And then someone heard what they had paskin, and they had already been chayzer. Bezdin had already been chayzer, but they didn't hear about the chazara, and they followed what the Bezdin had said. And it makes the Mishnah says whether or not they had already brought the param davar shel tzibur or not. Rav Shimon Poiter. Rav Shimon says he's going to be potter from bringing a carbon chatas, this individual who followed the Bezdin, because he followed the Bezdin. And, like we said, he was doing it by Hiras Bezdin. And there's no param davar shel tzibur. Whether there's a param davar shel tzibur or not, doesn't make a difference. Eliezer Aimer, Suffolk. Eliezer says Suffolk. So let's see what Rashi says. What does Suffolk mean? Suffolk claim a Suffolk ikachayla bezin ikachayla da'atzidami mevi an asham tali. He has to bring an asham tali. An asham is brought. An asham tali is a special carbon that's brought when you're not sure whether you are over. If a person ate a piece of chaylev. I'm sorry, he ate a piece of meat from amongst two pieces. One was chaylev and one was basar, and he's not sure whether he ate. It's a shaygig, and he's not sure if he did it or not. Maybe he ate the piece that was basar, and the pieces are not there. You can't pay. There's no way to know. So there's a din of asham tali. So over here also, we're not sure if he is considered to be that he did it b'hiras bezdin, or do we say no? He should have checked if bezdin was already chayzer. Had he gone and looked into it, he would have found out that bezdin was chayzer. So therefore, maybe he bears responsibility, and therefore he's chayiv for a carbon chatas. So Gemara, Ezu Suffolk. What is this we further refine. What is the Suffolk? Where does he bring Asham Tali? Yoshev loy b'toich beisay chayiv. If he was still in his house, so he had the opportunity to inquire. Then he's chayiv to bring, like Rebbe Eliezer said, he has to bring the Asham Tali because he had the opportunity to find out. So maybe he's chayiv. But if he was no longer around the house, where he's no longer in the city where Bezdin had made the psak, then he has no opportunity. They made a psak. He has no opportunity to inquire before he goes and eats chaylev. So then he's potter because he's taka a full-fledged. He did it by Hiras Bezdin, and we had no way to get at it. Amar Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says, "Moidanu yizashu karav leptur min ha'chayv." Rabbi Kiva says that I think that this case of someone he argues about this case of where and we said that everyone agrees that if it's Yoshev Beisai, he's going to be chayiv, and if he went to Midas Hayam, he's potter. He says, I think that the person who went to Midas Hayam, he's karav lepotter, and therefore he should be potter, like we had said. Amalei Ben Azai said, Maishna Zemena Yoshev Beisai. Ben Azai disagrees. He says, no, I don't agree with what the Tanakam Rebbe Eliezer said and what you, Rebbe Kiva, are saying. I think, how is this any different from someone who's sitting in his house? I'm sorry. Well, he said, why is it any different from someone sitting in a house? So Rebbe Kiva answered him back. Because someone who's in his house, he had an opportunity to go and check. So therefore, that's the reason why he's going to be chayiv. But Rebbe Kiva says to Ben Azai, but this person who went away, he didn't have an opportunity to hear. Okay, so we're going to go. The Mishnah then turns to a different thing. Hayru bezdin lakar is kol haguf. If bezdin paskin to say an entire mitzvah does not exist. Amru ein nida b'Torah. They said there's no need in the Torah. In Shabbos b'Torah. In Avodas Kechav b'Torah. Hare elu p'turin. If the bezdin said any of these things, you're not going to bring a parhalam davar shel tzibur on that. It's only, as we're going to see, when they said a specific part of a mitzvah is they made a mistake on. But such a big mistake is not included in the din of parhalam davar shel tzibur. But if they were mevatel part of a mitzvah, then you have a din of a parhalam davar shel tzibur. They said there is a din of a nida, but they say that someone who is in the status where it's after they were a nida and they're in the following 11 days, where every day if they become a nida, if they are raya, they become a zava, katana, and then they have to wait till that day. And they just say that din doesn't exist. Or yesha b'tayrav and potter, they say part of Shabbos. There's no din of hoitzah. Yesha b'tayrav l'shtachave potter, they say there is a din of hoitzah. But someone who bows down is not considered to be oived avodas kechavim. Harelu chayav shenev v'nelem davar v'loy kol haguf. The Torah says v'nelem davar. It only means be missing a davar, meaning a part of the mitzvah v'loy kol haguf, but not an entire mitzvah. Okay, we're going to have to stop over here, and Matzah Shabbos we'll learn the explanation of the Mishnah.